Good. Welcome to this episode. This is episode number 2, and our latest short story, "The Memories We Lost." We are done with the memories we lost, and now this is short story number 2. How much land does a man need? By Leo Tolstoy. It is still KCSE English Literature Paper 101/03. The year is 2022. Best wishes from I, Mr. Sherlock, for those students who are going to sit for their March end of course exams. So as you're preparing, let's also look into this one just to recap, or maybe to enlighten your memories on maybe the areas that you didn't get right, or maybe you are not clear on. Hold on. So welcome to How Much Land Does a Man Need? The author. When Tolstoy died at the age of 82 from pneumonia, he may have been the most famous man in the world. He was the leading Russian novelist in the world. Leo Tolstoy was born in 1828 in a wealthy aristocratic parents. He was orphaned at the age of 9 and therefore grew up under the care of aunts and uncles. He once served in the Russian army during the Crimean War. It is the suffering that he witnessed during the war that helped to bring out his serious, morally questioning nature. Tolstoy's greatest work are War and Peace and Anna Karenina, regarded as the finest novels ever written. Although Tolstoy was a pacifist, a Christian, and an aristocrat, his books were never banned. His rural grave is a major Russian tourist attraction, and his house in Moscow is now Tolstoy Museum. The title. The title is a question. Fahom tries to get as much land as he could. However, at the end he dies trying to get this land and is buried in a grave 6 feet by 3. The end of the story answers the question, how much land does a man need? That 6 feet is all we require, because when we die, we do not carry anything with us. The setting. The setting is in a Russian countryside. Events rotate mainly around Pahom, as he meets his death in the Bakhil's land. The plot of the story. How much land does a man need? Is one of the early moral tales that Tolstoy wrote. Written in 1886, the story tells about Pahom, who is corrupted by materialism and greed and eventually destroyed by greed. The protagonist, Pahom, is a peasant. At the beginning, we are told he owns 123 acres of land pasture and a big house, animals, and a family of 5, but is not contented. One day, a passing dealer informs Pahom that he had bought 1,300 acres of land at 1,000 rubles, and even goes further to show Pahom the title deed. The dealer creates the impression that the seller, that is Bakhils, are simple-minded who own large tracts of land. Pahom makes up his mind that he was going to buy land from the Bakhils. He buys present for them and with a servant makes a 7-day journey to the land of Bakhshir to take as much land for a low price. He gives the Bashkirs the presents he had bought for them. The chief informs him that as a token of appreciation, he would be rewarded with whatever that he wanted. Pahom chooses land. Their offer is very unusual. For a sum of 1,000 rubles, Pahom can walk around as large areas he wants, starting at daybreak, marking his route with a spade along the way. If he reaches his starting point by sunset that day, the entire area of land his route encloses would be his. But if he does not reach his starting point, he will lose money and receive no land. Pahom is happy with the arrangement and decides that he will start the following morning. He is so excited by the idea of owning large tracts of land that he cannot even sleep. He only dozed off just before dawn. That is on page 22. Before sunrise, he is taken to the hillock and shown the spot that spot he will start at sunrise. Pahom takes a spade to mark the land. As soon as the sun appears, he starts walking towards the meadow. He walks fast and at a certain point must take off his coat and shoes because of the heat and so that he can walk faster. He walks straight and far until the hillock and the people are no longer visible. He stops to take water and lunch. After the meal, he starts walking but is soon very exhausted and sleepy because it is too hot. When he thought he had walked enough and should start to go back, he is tempted by a damp hollow, and it will be a pity to leave those out. Flax will do well there. Greed makes him not to turn when it would have been very necessary to do so. By the time he makes up his mind to go back to the hillock, the sun is overhead and he is exhausted. By this time, he is very tired. The temperatures are very high, his feet are cut and bruised, and the legs are failing him. He regrets having walked too far. Because of serious pain and exhaustion, he throws away everything else he was carrying: coat, shoes, flask, and his cap. Fear of not achieving his goals make him to start running. This in despite of the heat, dehydration, and pain. At one point, he is aware that strain will kill him. Though afraid of death, he could not stop. He ran on and on. This is the climax of the story when he decides to keep going even though he is dying. He dies of exhaustion once he reaches the top of the hill. The Bashkirs exclaims, "He has gained much land, but is dead." The servant quickly buries Pahom using his own spade that he used to mark the land. Only 6 feet of land is needed to bury him. 6 feet of land is how much land a man needs because every man dies in the end. Good students, let's look at the characterization. The only fully developed character in the story, How Much Land Does a Man Need, is Pahom. The author intends his reader to focus entirely on the plight of Pahom as he seeks his fortune. He is a peasant who keeps trying to gain more land and never seems to have enough. He is a dynamic character who is well developed, even though negatively. At first, he is content with his life, but then he becomes greedy and ambitious in his pursuit of wealth, new land. Pahom is an industrious and a hard-working person. He owns 123 acres of land on which he farms, and the number of cattle kept increasing. Page 21. It is this trait that makes him to go to the Bashkir for the search of new lands, but Pahom is also greedy and materialistic. We are told that he wanted wider and more fertile lands and had a desire for it. He kept on thinking of one thing: how can I have more land? Because of greed and materialism, he goes out to the Bashkir's land in search of cheap land. At the Bashkirs, he becomes carried away by his greed and covers a distance that is too much for him and is responsible for his own demise. Pahom is rustling to return to the hillock before sunset, dying in the process. He knows that he is dying and considers stopping, but he doesn't because of greed. Pahom portrays the nature of greed in humans. Pahom is also a very generous person. This is seen when he buys presents for the Bashkirs and are happy with him. In fact, as a token of appreciation of the generosity that the Bashkir's chief offers to give him any reward that he chooses. He is also a determined person because when he makes up his mind to get the Bashkir's land, he makes a 7-day journey to their land. He even buys presents for the Bashkirs. The chief of the Bashkirs is a static character who does not change or develop. He is appreciative and thankful of the presents given to him by Pahom, and because of these, he makes a good deal with Pahom about how much land he can get from their tribe. For accommodating Pahom and offering him land, he is very hospitable and generous. The dealer, not much is revealed about the dealer, but it is apparent that he is sincere and honest. He even shows Pahom his title deed to prove his point. Themes. Pahom, the main character, reflects the characteristics of greed. Tolstoy, through Pahom, wants to tell us that greed does not pay and might lead to self-destruction. Pahom, the main character, has enough of what one requires in life. In fact, he's rich. He owns 123 acres of land, a family, and land, but is not contented. He goes out in the Bashkir's land to look for more at a very low price. The author wants to show that what we have with us does not set satisfactory, and it keeps us to look for more. Pahom became carried away with his ambition and greed and loses contentment, even though he already had land to make him happy. On his trip to the Bashkirs to find land, he has an opportunity to gain land as much as he wanted. After paying 1,000 rubles, he is told to make a mark and walk as much, but be back by sunset, and that the land that he would have covered would be his, provided that he was back by sunset. But Pahom, full of greed, walks beyond his limit. On reaching, he is running short of time, that he starts running to get back to the starting point. Unfortunately, he dies of exhaustion just when he was about to reach the starting point. Styles. Use of parables. Tolstoy's story is a parable. Like the parables of Jesus, a parable is a simple tale that has moral lessons. Like Pahom, many people in the world today believe that we need material things and wealth in order to be happy. Such people often waste their time to gain more for themselves. The author tries to tell us that we should not have greed on materials that are meaningless, but do things that are worthy. The story concludes with a moral lesson that the only thing that we need in the end is a little piece of land. Therefore, we should learn to be content with what we have. Having more doesn't always make you happy, and greed can consume and destroy your life. At the end, Pahom gets a tempting end. Use of irony. When Pahom dies and is buried by his servant, the author describes his grave as being 6 feet as all the land that he needed. 6 feet is an expected answer to the title of the story. The use of dialogue. There is dialogue between Pahom and the dealer, and I quote, "Is it true that there is a place where land sells such cheap? There must be. It could not be. Look at this title deed." Page 21. The dialogue brings out the honesty of the dealer and the inquisitive and greedy nature of Pahom. It is also the dialogue between the chief of the Bashkir's land, and the dialogue brings out the greed of Pahom and the chief's generosity. Good students, that also marks the end of this one. Again, stay put. For exam style questions, this was just the survey. They overlook the general approach to this particular short story, and instead, like the understanding part of it. But an exam style question and its approach is still on transit, which means that after we are done successfully with all the 10 short stories, which are something like 10 there, and after we're done with those particular short stories, then most definitely we will venture into exam style questions, and of course the past years, the ones that have shown, the stories that have shown, and we exclude them, and we also scrutinize that one, and we also project on. We can also have our own predictions and see which one they are likely to be set this year. So hold on, and if this one is helping you, give it a thumbs up. Remember to share with your friends and subscribe. Good day for now.